Running.
Now you learn about the penis, Miss Granger.
I'm gonna make love to you, woman. I'm gonna lay you by down the fire.
Bill, how about Shanghai Noon?
Very funny. Oh, here's the reason why. Here's the context to this. Here's the context. Patrick and I got that movie for Christmas.
So what you're gonna tell me is how to do kung fu? Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, are you afraid of offending a vibrator enthusiast?
No. I think people might gave people ideas. I should try that. Holy mackerel, that feels good.
Yeah, Pandora just took our stalkership up to a new level.
Yeah, me and Pandora are interesting, to say the least. It's like, okay.
I am currently searching for die-hard fan fictions. They must exist.
You want help?
Yeah, like die-hard porn.
Oh man!
God!
They must exist.
Oh, you want help? We can help you with that.
Yes, please help me with this.
One moment, please.
Okay.
God.
All right. So this is called Mind Brooder.
Oh God!
By Phantom Moocat.
I'm gonna mute myself. So.
I'm gonna hang myself. Okay. I hope my mom's not still up.
You're gonna have some wonderful dreams tonight, isn't she, huh?
Yeah, seriously. Some weird
I mean,
shit.
it's a small house, so I was like, "What the hell is he reading?"
Your mother is gonna be like this. Like, why did I have a dream of two brothers having sex with one another? Why?
Oh no, she can't hear that. I said when I was reading. What the fuck is Travis reading?
He was bouncing rabbit. What?
Say it's a children's story.
Okay.
It's a children's story. Honest.
It's Winnie the Pooh. Okay. There was complete blackness all around him. Simon Gruber's mind snapped to attention, realizing the darkness surrounding him. He began to question himself and his surroundings, trying to figure out how from a helicopter shooting at McLean he got here. The questions of the young German remained questions, okay. Their answers seeming to float around only in the dark, just out of reach from where he stood. After what could have been either a split second in time or an eternity, a door with shallow light emitting from it appeared ahead of him. Simon blinked several times, even though the light was hardly enough to see the faint outline of the door. The change from the ever-present, suffocating night hurt his pale blue eyes. He felt compelled to go to the door and see what was on the other side, although it was not himself who felt that. It was as if he was a marionette with his own thinking ability, but the puppeteer did not care. Pinocchio didn't like this feeling. Not one bit. He was used to being in control, having power over others. He loved the intoxicating feeling of controlling someone's thoughts, someone's actions, especially when it had been McLean. Simon recalled his game with McLean, which seemed so long ago, and smirked, knowing how much trouble he'd put that dumb Irish flatfoot through. Irish? Okay. His smirk turned into a scowl as he remembered the cop got the upper hand in his last memory of the world outside the abyss he was in. Say hello to your brother for me. The urge to go open the door was too much for Simon, who was now standing near it. His short blonde hair seemed to glow from the bright light trickling out of the top of the doorway. He put his hand on the doorknob and grit his teeth.
Here goes nothing.
He thought, as he slowly turned the knob and opened the door. The light flooded into his eyes, and he shut them out of impulse. He opened his eyes slowly, letting his pupils dilate to the new atmosphere. Simon furrowed his brow, and as he realized, he was in a finely furnished room. The walls were papered with a deep crimson and gold pattern. A dark marble fireplace was the main source of the light, and also warmth that swept over him. A bed was off to the side with a canopy of dark red silk draped over the top structure. There was a couch next to a mahogany table with a glass flask, presumably with scotch, inside, and 2 glasses next to it. And then he realized he was not alone in the room. A dark head of hair poked up from the embroidered chair facing the fireplace.
My God.
Simon breathlessly muttered, slipping into his native German tongue. The figure in the chair shifted before standing up and turning to face the new occupant of the room. His chestnut brown hair was combed nicely into 2 parts. The hair brushed back near his temples revealed streaks of silver. His sideburns connected to his dark facial hair, which made a sort of box-like shape around his mouth. This is very detailed. He wore a designer suit complete with a red tie, whose color seemed to perfectly match the room's decor. Simon had already known who this person was as soon as he had seen the finely combed back hair. With seeing the man again, he involuntarily clenched his teeth.
Ah, nice to see you, Gruber.
The man spoke in a velvet tone, an apparent German accent.
Hans.
Simon said, practically growling the name. Hans smiled at his brother, whom he had not seen in years.
Glad you remember my name, Simon. It has been a while, hasn't it?
The deep voice said in an emotionless tone. Simon ignored the question and posed another as he glanced around the room again.
Where are we?
The other man shrugged and scratched his nose. That was the most prominent and distinct feature on his face. Racist.
Well, as fun as it's been seeing you again, Bruder, I must be off. Gold to steal, countries to buy, you and...
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Simon.
Oh, sorry. Oh man, my Jeremy Irons sucks. All my impressions suck.
Don't worry about that.
Or should I do it as, what's it? Dungeons and Dragons, Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, go for it. How about?
Well, as fun as it's been seeing you again, Brooder, I must be off. Gold to steal, countries to buy, dragons to tame. You understand?
Simon smirked, turned to the door, and tried the doorknob. It would not budge.
Feed me your rage, door.
I'm afraid once you're in this place, you're in.
The dark-haired German chuckled and sat down on the couch, slouching slightly. Simon frowned, pounded on the door for a time before he grew helpless and gave up the futile attempt. He turned back to his brother, who seemed awfully content with his sealed fate.
Is this some sort of trick?
He questioned his brother, who glanced over lazily.
I don't know, but you might as well get comfortable. I've been here for a while.
Hans trailed off, his brow furrowed as he thought.
Actually, I don't know how long I've been here. It's rather hard to tell time in such a place.
Simon's brother shrugged again, reached over to the glass container with the dark-colored liquid and poured some into a glass before taking a sip. The blond German looked down at himself a moment. He noticed he looked much shabbier looking than his brother, who was dressed in a fine suit. Simon was wearing a faded azure tank top and shabby black pants. He knew he looked good in them, but he rather wished to look a bit nicer if he's going to spend eternity with his brother. He looked up at Hans, who was sipping from the glass, holding it up to the light of the fire and gazing at the shining dark liquid inside. Simon sighed and sat down on the couch, typo, with a plop, resting one of his legs on a mahogany coffee table that held a centerpiece of red roses. He smirked at the sight of the roses and turned to his brother. Ah, that's you.
Oh, sorry. For me? Oh, shit. No. I'm sounding like George C. Scott now. Oh, wait.
It's,
For
Get
me?
your guts out
For
and
me?
use it for war.
It was not in the file. For me? Oh, jeez.
Because I didn't like my brother doesn't mean I don't care when some Irish flat dude throws him out of the window.
I'm gonna try my best German.
Scheiße!
For me? Bruder, you shouldn't have.
He said in a playful, sarcastic tone. Hans drank the rest of the alcohol from his glass in one large gulp.
Don't me. They were there when I got here.
Hans responded, examining the empty glass before pouring himself another. Simon sat back, resting his head against his arms, which were placed behind him, and closed his eyes. He listened to the gentle crackle of the embers in the fireplace. An image of a blazing fire and the sound of helicopter propellers hitting metal wires flooded his mind. Say hello to your brother for me. The blonde German's clouded eyes jerked open as he sat upright, panting slightly, before resting his head in his hands.
Bad dream, Simon.
Hans bent over a bit to look at his brother, who had sweat glistening on the nape of his neck. Simon nodded slightly.
What was your last memory before being in here?
Hans' brother sat up and looked at him questioningly. The brown-haired German leaned back and seemed to search his mind.
That's your line. You said Simon's line.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I remember falling out of a window. This cop named McLean had shot me in my shoulder. Hans stopped and glanced at his shoulder, where he remembered the pain of the bullet slicing through his skin, and touched the area gently with his hand. He cocked his head at the fact that there was no hole in his suit or undershirt, and even more surprisingly, no wound whatsoever. He felt no pain in the area, and he could not feel a wound or an indent of skin indicating a bullet had ever hit him. Simon's eyes widened at Hans' words. His memory came back to him. He was picking on McLean and toying with him for revenge of his brother's death.
Mein Gott. We're dead.
Simon breathed out in a voice no more than a whisper. Hans looked up at his brother and tilted his head.
Are you sure?
He questioned, narrowing his eyes. Simon nodded.
Hey, I'm gonna edit this out. I'm trying to work out how to do Jeremy Irons. I've seen him. I know what his voice sounds like. I just can't. Just hang on. We're gonna pause for a moment here. We're gonna have a little intermission.
Okay. Simon nodded.
What else would explain this? The last memories I have were fighting McLean.
He trailed off and smirked.
I stole all the gold from the Federal Bank in New York. I was trying to kill him, knowing for ruining my heist, but partly for killing you.
The blonde German went silent and looked down, trying to wrap his mind around no longer being among the living. Hans sat back and looked at the painted ceiling.
Well, that was kind of you, brother, to take revenge for me.
He smiled softly, rather happy with the fact his brother cared about his apparent death. The truth of the matter was, they never had really gotten along, and Hans knew it. But now he also knew the bond of blood was enough for Simon to risk his neck and lose his mortal life just in seeking revenge on the man who had killed his brother. Simon sneered.
Well, if I only gotten McLean involved, I probably would still be alive and rich.
Still, his brother replied, it was a thoughtful gesture.
The blonde thief nodded curtly and glanced at the glass container with the alcohol in it.
Pass me a drink, would you, dear Bruder?
Simon leaned back into the sofa, his muscles still tense from the realization he was not alive, and more so the fact that an alcoholic cop was his demise. Hans poured a glass out for his brother and gave it to him. Simon took a sip and relaxed slightly.
Why are you so agreeable all of a sudden, Hans? You were always an asshole when we were alive.
He took another sip of the beverage, and no drink, it's alcoholic, not beverage, and enjoyed the warmth it brought in his chest. Hans smoothed out his tie, watching the silk gently catch the light from the fireplace.
The way I figure it is, there's no reason to fight with you. After all, I know there's no way to leave this room. I might as well try to enjoy the company I have.
He shrugged and tilted his head a bit.
Better you than anyone else. At least I know you're a conniving, vindictive, and arrogant person, so I won't be surprised by any of your actions.
Danke, mein Bruder.
Simon said sarcastically as he rolled his eyes and gulped down the rest of his drink. The brunette thief smirked. I'm only kidding. Can't you take a joke, Bruder? He flashes his white smile at Simon, who smiled back and looked down at his empty glass.
I think this stuff is kicking in.
Hans' brother muttered to himself as he began to feel the room turn.
It's pretty strong,
He acknowledged and brought the container over and filled Simon's glass yet again.
Ah, danke.
The blonde smiled and put the glass to his lips, taking a sip. Hans cocked his head slightly.
Have you been working out? You weren't so muscular the last time we met.
He furrowed his brow and thought of his own weaker frame.
You jealous, eh?
Simon smirked and puffed out his chest a bit. Hans rolled his eyes at the attempt to look stronger.
You may have the brawn, Bruder, but I have always had the brains.
He scoffed, gave the blonde German a victory smirk, and then poured himself some more scotch. Simon shrugged.
If you say so.
The brothers sipped their drinks in silence, enjoying the warmth the fireplace brought to their skin and the warmth the liquor filled them with. And after a long silence, with their glasses virtually empty for what had to be a third time, Simon began to laugh.
At least we could have gotten a television or something. Or a radio.
He giggled, clearly intoxicated. Hans shook his head and smirked.
Clearly, my dear Bruder, you are not as adept at holding your alcohol as I am.
He patted his brother on the shoulder and motioned to take his glass away. Seeing this, the blonde German quickly pulled the glass back from his reach, spilling the rest of his contents on his already dirty shirt.
No, if I have to spend all this time with you, I can't possibly be sober.
Simon chuckled and stretched out on the couch, his legs facing his brother, one bent and the other hanging off the side of the couch. Hans peered over the knee that was now practically in his face and sighed.
Bruder, your shirt. You spilled your drink all over it.
The blonde German peered down at his shirt, noticing the large brown stain the alcohol had left.
Scheisse!
He groaned, sat up and pulled his shirt taut to examine the mess and muttered,
Of all the things, now I'm stuck with a filthy shirt.
He proved he was fluent in both German and English after that statement, as he proceeded to say every curse known to man in both languages.
And a filthy mouth.
Hans cocked his eyebrow at his brother, who was rubbing the stain furiously with another part of the shirt, which only seemed to spread the large orange stain down the fabric.
Forget it!
Simon yelled, threw his hands up in utter defeat, and in one fluid motion took the shirt off and cast it onto the chair a couple feet away.
That's your solution,
Hans said, unimpressed, and looked at his brother's build. Hans admitted to himself his brother's body was much nicer than his own, lean and strong. The firelight seemed to dance across the outlines of his muscles. Hans himself was lean, but certainly not fit to Simon's status. What he lacked up in muscle, he made up for with his intelligence, classic education, and, of course, a gun.
Yeah, pretty much.
The blonde gazed down at his bare chest, and then looked at his brother.
But now I feel really overdressed compared to you.
He laughed, got up, and poured himself yet another drink.
Yeah, I make you feel more comfortable, Buddha.
Hans smirked as he loosened his tie and placed it neatly on the side of the sofa.
Danke. I feel much better now.
Simon said sarcastically, laughed and took a swig of scotch and sat down close to his brother, who proceeded to down an almost completely filled glass in record time. These guys are fucking booze hounds. Okay. The blonde German rested his head against his brother's shoulder, giggling almost like a child. He then picked up his head, looked at Hans, and frowned.
No, this won't do at all.
Simon muttered, and he began to take Hans' suit jacket off, which, with much protest coming from the wearer.
What are you doing?
Hans questioned, irritated, as he squirmed, trying to keep his jacket on. But Simon persisted.
You're still far too dressed. Take off your jacket, or I'll do it for you.
The blonde thief furrowed his brow in determination as he pulled on the very expensive jacket, not showing much prowess in his field of work. "I'll do it myself, Simon!" the brunette thief shouted and shoved his brother off of him, who rolled back on the couch laughing. Hans let out a hard sigh. Like that, as he took off his jacket and folded it over the couch next to his tie. Before he could glance over to see how his brother was doing, the blonde German tackled him. Hans was pushed back by the sheer weight of his brother, not to mention the occurrence was completely unexpected. After a quick adjustment of the brunette German's arm, he realized his blonde sibling was inches from his face, grinning at him. He cocked an eyebrow questioningly, as if to ask, "What the hell was that for?"
Gotcha, Gotcha, brother, Bruder.
Simon chortled, his hands on his brother's shoulder, pinning him to the arm of the sofa. "You did indeed," Hans replied, raising both his eyebrows, attempting to seem more impressed with his feat. There was silence for a moment, as Hans looked at his younger brother. Simon's smile seemed to slip off his face, leaving an indistinguishable expression. The brunette German parted his lips to speak, but they met with his brothers before he had a chance. Hans was struck with a rush of pure surprise, shock, and confusion as his brother kissed him. Yet, as wrong as he knew it was, it felt right. He had a sense of belonging and of completeness he had never felt before, a feeling that having all the money in the world could never have given him, he realized. The fact that this was his brother, his own sibling, pulled him back into reality, and he broke the kiss. Not sure whether to look at his brother with disgust or love. The brunette thief looked down from his counterpart's shining eyes. Simon saw the reaction his brother gave to the sudden affection and averted his gaze ashamedly, and spoke in a voice that could barely be considered a whisper at best.
Feed me your range, mein Bruder. Feed it to me! Feed it to me! Yes! Yes!
That's what he said. We're a fan at it. Okay. The brunette German looked up to his brother's vacant stare, the glimmer of joy once held in his gaze fading deep into the gray-blue clouds that now resided in his eyes. He thought of the blissful feeling he had when his brother kissed him, and how his brother had sacrificed his life just to avenge him. He contemplated the sin of what the blonde thief had done, and the sin he commit alone for enjoying. What? Okay. Hans smiled at his ridiculous thought. He had killed many times before, and of course stolen various amounts of money and other fine goods. Why should love be any sort of worry for his morality? He couldn't help but grin at his moronic thoughts about sin and morals. He was a killer and a thief, at least in the life outside of this bizarre afterlife. Now, he could be something he had never been before. A lover. Hans smirked at his brother, who was still sulking, Simon's mind panicking over the mistake he had made, realizing how foolish it was to have shown such affection without warning. The blonde German's mind screeched to a halt as his sibling's lips pressed against his own. Hans shifted, sitting up, his lips still locked onto his brother's. Simon could not help but smile as he kissed his older brother, wrapping his arms around his counterpart's shoulders. Partly because he could not believe that this was happening, but mostly because his brother's facial hair tickled his face. They parted lips and grinned at each other, content with being together for as long a time as it may be in this strange realm of consciousness.
You're still wearing too much, Hans.
Simon said coyly, as he smiled and began to unbutton his brother's crisp white shirt. The brunette leaned back, allowing Simon better access to the buttons down his shirt, enjoying the light touch of his brother's fingers against his chest and abdomen. As Simon unbuttoned the last button, Hans slid the shirt off his sleeves, this time letting the article of clothing fall right off the couch into a crumpled heap. The brunette thief lived up to his title as he stole another kiss. from his brother, pressing his bare chest gently against his companion's, and wrapped his arms around his toned body. Simon's lips traveled from his brother's down to his neck, letting his hands slide down and learn Hans' slender frame. Hans closed his eyes, focusing only on his companion's warm and sensual touch. He could feel his brother's hands caress down his abdomen to a more sensitive location and begin to unzip his pants. Hans pushed the hand away gently and smirked at his surprised lover. "You first, Bruder," he said teasingly, looking over the blonde's body. Simon grinned and took his pants off, slowly, watching his brother bite his lip with impatience. Once they were off, the blonde German took his counterpart's hand and led him over to the bed and laid him down on it, pulling off his trousers as well. Simon leaned over his brother, kissed his lips softly, and smiled.
Feed me your rage, brother. Feed me your rage.
He whispered in his big brother's ear, putting his hand through his soft mocha-colored hair. Simon laid down next to his dear brother and kissed him passionately, his strong arms holding Hans close. The brunette's hands did their own exploring, his fingertips gently tracing the blonde's toned body. Before long, not an inch of their bodies was unknown to each other. Their lips were locked in a passionate kiss as they stroked each other sensually and lovingly. The brothers only broke apart their osculation when they needed to take a breath from all of the excitement or just to enjoy his partner's touch. They pleasured each other, lovers, basking in the bliss they one another until both of their bodies were tired and aching from delight. "Mein Bruder," Hans sighed as he kissed the blonde German, holding the man tenderly in his arms. Simon smiled and ran his fingers through his brother's hair before burrowing his face into Hans' neck, whilst the brunette German held on dearly to his sibling. The blonde thief slipped into a slumber, dulled by the sound of his counterpart's beating heart. His companion soon followed, closing his eyes and relaxing his grip, but never letting go of his loving brother. The sleeping brothers awoke suddenly by the sound of an unlocking door. Hans sat up in bed and looked at the door. The door, which held only pure blackness behind it, now had white light pouring through the cracks of the frame. The brunette thief cocked his head in puzzlement and quickly put his pants on. Simon sat up in bed lazily and yawned.
What is it, Hans?
He asked, rubbing the sleep from his eyes as he stretched his other arm upward. "Look at the door," his brother responded, who was now fully dressed and tying his tie. Simon turned and looked at the door, which seemed to be emitting pure light from behind it. He began to put on his clothes slowly as Hans finished up his tie and made himself look neat. "I think the door can be opened now. I don't know where it could lead, though," the brunette said as he examined the edges around the door. Simon walked over to his brother and took his hand.
It doesn't matter where it leads, Bruder. I have you.
He smiled and kissed Hans lovingly. Hans nodded and opened the door. Light seemed to flood the entire room. Everything besides the two holding hands disappeared into the white, never letting go of each other's grasp. The two walked through the doorway. They knew wherever this took them, they would always have the love of mein Bruder.
So, better or worse than the 6th Die Hard movie?
I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing it's better.
Oh god, that was terrible. I was cackling the whole time. I'm sorry. That's why I kept myself.
And I feel bad now because my impression was like all over the place. I was doing me in a deep voice. I slipped into Plinkett at one point. I don't understand why these two are making love. They didn't seem to like each other before. I guess
Especially because one of them was dead.
I guess death does that to you.
Why? You want to play brother and gay sex?
The only
That's the only way to unlock the door too.
The only thing that Jeff ever did for me was get rid of my first wife.
Oh.
Uh,
Well, if these are the
Thanks,
after dark,
Jeff.
I'm sure we should call this the
I-
after dark, or should we call this the horror show or something like that.
the only thing I just went,
Put the Tales from the Crypt theme on it, maybe.
Da, 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 da. Okay, I lost it.
I just wish it hadn't wrecked my caddy.
I love your ad lib there, Darkseid. Feed me your rage.
That
Your
was-
rage.
It would have been funny. You just said, "Feed me your lust." Just like,
Oh, I should have. God damn it! I should have did that.
don't worry.
No, Feed Me Your Rage was good.
Feed me your lust, brother. Feed it to me. See, that's that when I got to that bit, that's when I felt actually good about doing the voice.
Okay, guys, I actually, speaking of sexual perversions and stuff, I found a Harry Potter fanfic which has 11 chapters about the school learning about sex.
Oh Jesus.
And that Professor Snape is the one who teaches it.
Okay, we gotta do it.
Okay.
Oh no. Not more fan fiction. I can't take it! Here we go.
She's really doing it. She's sucking me off. By God, she's good.
Snape's eyes rolled into his head and his mouth went slack as her head plopped up down onto the ground. As his head plopped down
And
onto
all
the ground,
around.
he could
Up, down, and all around.
he could feel her small hands lightly tugging at his balls as she swallowed him the best she could. He moaned as she picked up her pace, and then there was cold air.
Dear God, so it's almost there. Why? Why did you stop? What the hell are you motherfuckers doing?
I can't quite do Michael.
I'm going insane is what I'm doing.
Well, but aren't you? You're coked out.
Wait,
That explains everything by just.
Snape's face contorted with anger. Albus, Albus, what is the meaning of this? Me teaching sex? I thought you were the best candidate. Puppy is the best candidate.
I'm a virgin, you idiot!
First chapter, very top of the page.
Okay, here we go.
Give me a second. Give me a second.
Oh god. Oh my.
It's in caps, so you won't miss it.
Yeah.
By brewing potions, Snape hissed between clenched teeth. Sexual education, my ass. This is Perverted Potions, and we have a title. We have a title, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, where is it again? I'm sorry.
First chapter, a little bit
First
down.
year.
I have no
Okay.
idea what's going
You
on.
see, the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Wait. Snape,
For
wait.
those of you who'd rather not take it for the entire time, you can come to Snape for help.
Wait.
The
Wait,
fuck?
Wait. Hang on, wait, stop. Snape threw down his teeth in a coffin fit, jerking his head to Albus and roared.
What?
For those of you who would rather not take it for the entire team, you can still come to Professor Snape for help.
The fuck?
Yes, Severus. Yes, Severus, you will be explaining that, but I forbid you to use that term in the class. You would present yourself as a role model, after all. The great hall broke out in a shattering chaos. The potions master / sex ed professor buried his face in his hands as he shouted swears.
Damn. Shit. God.
Snape
God.
was undeniably pissed that he was chosen to do this, but the students hated him. They wouldn't want to come to their nasty, greasy git of a potions professor for sexual help, Who was the senile old man kidding? No one would sign up for this class.
Albus!
Snape roared.
Snape roared as he stalked into the headmaster's office. Ah, Service, I'm glad you can come to see me. We have much to talk about. We never got around to talking about your holiday in Teletubby Land.
Oh, well, I spent the holiday thinking of ways to kill you without getting caught.
And raping Teletubbies, of course.
And raping Teletubbies.
Splendid! What did you come up with? Albus smiled sweetly, seeming genuinely interested.
Albus,
Right,
what is...
Snape's face contorted with anger.
Albus, what is the meaning of this? Me teaching sex?
I thought you were the best candidate.
Bobby is the best candidate, you daft old man.
But who makes the potions for Poppy? Snape gritted his teeth.
I do.
And how can people avoid making mistakes, or perhaps solving one in a private matter?
By brewing potions, such as the abortion potion.
Snape hissed between clenched teeth.
Sexual education, my arse. This is perverted potions.
Well then, I'm glad that we settled that. This class of yours will take place once a week, starting next week. I will give you the syllabus to look over. Perhaps you will have some students, perhaps you won't. Snape stared at him with complete hatred. But, for your students' sake, I hope they come for you to help. I mean its
No
service.
pun intended.
Voldemort no longer lives, but we may still prepare the children for evil. With this, we are simply preparing them for life, because, as we know, fucking is the only way to stop Voldemort. Severus rose from his seat, taking his leave of the headmaster. He cursed under his breath as he stalked the corridors, occasionally finding a student out and berating them before he took away points. After making his way down the dungeons to his private quarters, he threw down the syllabus in disgust. He poured himself a shot of Odgens, whatever the hell that is, and downed it. He would not allow himself to prepare his teaching regiment for perverted potions sober. Let me just get down. Oh, and that's the rest of it. There's not a lot of dialogue after that.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on in the next chapter?
So in the next chapter, we end this chapter with Hermione Granger coming to him for a private session.
Hello, Professor.
What are you wearing? Oh, you're wearing black. I love black.
So,
I always wear black, Miss Granger.
Wait, say bitches love it.
Bitches love black.
wow.
Oh
This
god.
Dorp's Night, I wish you the best of luck for editing all this awesomeness out.
Oh man, this is gonna be tough.
And you have to
no.
say that, you have to say this, don't drink
This
wine
is
while all
funny.
this.
Hermione was surprised that the headmaster wished the student body knew more about sex and the true dangers behind it. Mainly the babies aspect. It's a scary thing growing up, finding a boy or girl and then trying to slip a condom on without it being awkward. She couldn't believe the idea that students actually got it on within the castle walls, but Harry and Ron trumped that notion. Yeah, Hermione,
God.
didn't you know? Seamus has a thing of doing it in the girls' bathroom stalls, Ron stated. We think it's because it runs the risk of getting caught. That, or he knows Moaning Myrtle is watching him. Harry shuddered, thinking back to his 4th year. He got help from Moaning Myrtle for the Triwizard Tournament while in the bath, but she kept looking at his penis whenever she could.
Hey,
Oh,
I'll
no.
do the narrating if you want, so you help save your voice. So we're okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. It works! By God, that may just work!
And by God, she's doing it. And by the gods!
Oh, let's see. Hermione, why are you signing up for this class? Harry started. I mean, can you trust Snape? He might take this as an opportunity to, you know what? Hermione looked livid. I doubt that Professor Snape would actually try to lift up my skirt and demonstrate his knowledge on me. I've been given...
Oh, man.
I mean, after all, his name does rhyme with, you know.
Wait. Wait, cut to... Where is it? Hermione smiled weakly. Hello, Professor. And now
Hello,
it's
Governor.
anger. And now it's anger.
Miss Granger,
Snape rasped.
I gather you are here for the lesson in sexual education.
No, sir. Actually, I was here for another dose of potions. The sarcasm
God.
dripped from her lips. Snape sneered at her in turn. Of course I am, sir. She smiled sweetly. I'm giving her a Cockney accent for this.
Okay.
Oh, Severus wanted nothing more than to wipe that silly smile off the girl's face. He actually had a student, and it had to be the know-it-all Gryffindor.
I'm intrigued, Miss Granger. This is one thing you have not studied upon, then?
Sir, I know for a fact that sex is never safe, but I am taking all the precautions.
Here's a precaution that will do you justice, Miss Granger. Keep your skirt down and legs shut. Then a man won't be able to go between them. Not that I believe there would be one who'd want to, anyway.
He smirked. He smirked even so smugly at the appalled Gryffindor. A precaution that you must know too well, Professor, Hermione spat out.
10 points from Gryffindor for that cheeky attitude of yours, Miss Granger.
I could say the same to you, sir, Hermione choked out, completely offended.
And you already have 10 more points from Gryffindor.
Professor Snape, Hermione looked at him determinedly, are you going to teach me or not? This little lioness was not going to give up.
All right, Snape thought. You want to learn, Miss Granger? I'll give you something to learn. You'll wish you'd never signed up for this class. I'll make sure of it. But I have already taught you something, Miss Granger. Keep your legs shut. Now get out. I do not want to see you at this hour again until the next class.
He needed time to think of his new curriculum for his special soul student. He will never hear the end of this from Albus, but the old man needed to see that this embarrassment of a class was utterly ridiculous. But it has only been 10 minutes, sir, Hermione pleaded.
Time well spent. Now get out.
Hermione wrapped her feet around the rear legs of the chair, and her hands held a deft grip on the seat. Snape saw this motion of defiance and scowled. Persistent little minx. Snape walked briskly over to Hermione, spun the chair around so that the back faced the desk and Hermione faced him. He grabbed the seat of the chair just below his hand, slightly brushing against them, and kneeled before her, her eyes wide at his promixity.
Kneel before
You
Snape.
say the hostage line from Die Hard and
Kneel!
Kneel before Snape.
I thought I told you.
I thought I told you, Miss Granger, to keep your legs shut.
His voice dangerously low, almost trying to reach something, to ignite something lower in Hermione. I think that's you.
No, that's
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, God. Harry was right. He's going to lift up my skirt and show me how it's done. Snape chuckled. Oh, crap. Did I say that out loud?
Oh, God.
Snape glanced down at her legs, which Hermione caught, and quickly unwrapped her feet and brought them to his chest, kicking them away. Snape landed on his bum, scowling at Hermione, which had promptly gathered her things and ran over to the door.
But before taking her leave, she said, "Until next time, Professor."
Until next time, indeed, Miss Granger.
Arthur's note. ROFL. I hope you enjoy this chapter. Reviews welcome and helpful hints appreciated. I need to brush up on my dirty jokes. I think the story might be riddled with them.
Really?
No shit.
Don't say.
Let's hear. So the next chapter begins. Hermione was fanning herself.
Wait. Author's note.
Sorry.
Author's note.
Oh.
I'm warning you, this isn't very smutty. If a kid were to read this, well, let's just, I don't want them to. The only thing I own is this computer I stole. Arthur's note ends.
Do you want me to do the narrating?
Go ahead.
Sure, yeah.
Give a second. Give a second. This might be.
Phony phallus is the next chapter.
Oh man.
That's what Severus Snape said.
That's what she said.
There. Okay. Hermione was fanning herself as she walked through the corridors to Gryffindor Tower to her head girl's room. She was unusually hot and couldn't. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
You want to get her?
Look, my mom's sleeping. She hears us.
All right, Cave, do you want to?
I'll do it.
Cave?
I'll do it. That's
What
fine.
are you doing?
Sorry.
It's like she unbuttoned the buttons on her blouse, and it's like, what are you doing, Bill?
Okay. She was unusually hot and couldn't fathom the reason for it. She gradually realized that Professor Snape, potions master of Hogwarts, former Death Eater, and the infamous Greasy Git of the dungeons, had aroused her to no end. She didn't know his voice could reach her like that. She kept thinking back to his voice and how lovely it would feel to have his mouth next to her ear, either telling her to pay attention or nibbling on it. She shuddered at the thought. Oh, his voice. It could cause such fear, and yet now he could lecture about the importance of the paperclip, and she would be caught in a trance for sure. Whenever he hovered inches away from her face, she wanted to lean into him instead of kicking him, but her fear got the better of her. She stopped in the hallway and let out a scream and shook her head, not caring if anyone heard her. She should not be starting off her last year. Okay, so she is 17. Lusting after
Thank
her potions
God.
professor.
Thank
She should be
God.
yeah, she knows she's starting off her first year now. She should be looking towards some young thing, right? But most were still immature and inexperienced and talked of nothing but Quidditch. Snape at least could be considered her intellectual equal.
And Ron and Harry's too busy doing each other, apparently.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, those stupid men sitting on their couches eating Doritos, talking nothing but Quidditch.
Yes.
Damn those men. Damn them all.
I hate men. They suck.
Now
Wait, I am a man. Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry.
She was comparing Snape to boys her age and finding him to be more attractive. He was a professor as well. How was she to survive his class now? She slowly made her way to the Gryffindor portrait and said the password. She lazily made her way into the common room only to find two pairs of expectant eyes staring straight her way.
Hermione, you're back early.
Harry stated.
It's only 7:20. How was Snape? Where'd you learn?
Ron asked in a concerned tone. Without looking at them.
You can go ahead and read Hermione.
One thing. Keep my legs shut. Ron laughed out loud before covering it with a horrible cough, and Harry was too stunned for words. She turned around. Before you say anything, yes, I plan on going next week. And no, she lied, sort of. Professor Snape was still his snarky self. Now, I have homework I need to go finish before I go about on my rounds tonight. With that, she left her best friends shocked and slightly amused.
Wow,
Snape
Hermione's voice got deep, man.
yeah, I know.
Better than my attempt.
Snape noticed in his classes over the week that Hermione did everything in her power to avoid his eyes. She didn't even raise her hand to answer a question.
Oh,
He smiled.
wait, just stop for a minute. You know how, Web, know how you said her voice got deep?
Yeah.
That's because of the lust.
Right.
Oh, Snape!
Go ahead.
So, I was gonna say something dirty, but oh wait.
Why stop now?
Yeah, I
Do
know.
it!
I was gonna say there's something low that's pulling her voice lower down. Let's see. Okay, where was I?
She didn't
Oh,
even raise a.
She didn't raise her hand. He smiled, knowing she was still uncomfortable around him. It would not be much longer until she would be out of his hands when it came to the sexual education class. Luckily for him, there had been no students to come by for his sexual advice. It would not be pleasant for either side of the party. He had completed his new regimen from Hermione, mainly backup classes if this next one was not able to scare her away. He thought back to last Tuesday when he closed in on her. The look in her eyes was delicious. That was pure natural fear he had caused in her. But there was something else. He couldn't quite place his finger on it, but he hoped he would see it again tonight. He wanted to figure out what it was and simply to frighten her again. He glanced at his timepiece, making sure everything for tonight was ready. 5 minutes until 7. He didn't go to dinner tonight. He would rather be in the classroom to welcome Hermione. He needed to make her uneasy from beginning to end. Speak of the devil, he thought, as he noticed a bushy brown-haired girl poke her head in. Hello, Professor Snape, Hermione said as she opened the door, stepping into the room. Her eyes widened and mouth dropped open at the sight before her. It was Snape, hovering over a nude body lying on a desk. He set some wards on the door. He wanted to make sure she stayed for the entire hour. Oh, God. He was graced to see that petrified look in her amber eyes, although it was missing something. Miss Granger, Snape nodded towards her. I see you've noticed my dummy. She let out a sigh of relief. It's not real. So it's yours? I assure you, I bought it only a couple of days ago for the teaching of the class alone. I'm not that lonely to resort to that method, Miss Granger, Snape retorted. Hermione couldn't help but giggle. Snape sneered at her in return. Miss Granger, we will be learning about the male anatomy today. It's best for you to learn about the opposite sex's structure before going over your own. He heard the sound of Hermione gulping across the room. It was hard not to smile.
So wait a second. So it's a male doll. So she was suspecting he was gay. Huh.
Yep.
Anyway.
I'm not gay!
The male
I'm
anatomy.
not gay!
The male anatomy, sir.
Hermione sounded a bit apprehensive. Yes. Now, if you would make your way over here, I want you to put your hand around the wrist of the dummy and say aloud, male. With this dummy, you can control the gender, but with your vague demand, it will just create the gender and not a face. I would rather not know who you desire at this moment, Miss Granger.
Harry.
Hermione wouldn't want him to know either. She cleared her mind and said,
Male.
Yeah. She looked up at Snape, catching his gaze. He glanced down at the crotch of the dummy, his way of telling her to avert her gaze down. She gasped as the dummy grew a pair of balls and a flaccid penis. Snape bit back at his laughter after watching her eyes nearly pop out of their sockets.
What now, Professor?
Now you learn about the penis, Miss Granger. He pulled out his wand and used it as a pointer.
Say that again. Wait, say that again. Oh my God, that's great. Start that paragraph again.
He talks like something he's crying for his soul. Oh, Dark You're crying for your soul.
My soul died a long time ago. I have no soul.
Sounds like it's dying.
Do it! Do it, Doc! Do it!
Now
Cave.
you learn about the penis, Miss Granger. That might be a good like sound bite we could just use instead.
Wait. I need a clean recording of that because it's too much laughter.
Okay.
Wait. I'll cue you.
Let's mute our microphone to do it again.
Now you learn about the penis, Miss Granger.
Good. Continue. Please continue.